Hey folks, it's Tommy Z back again with you. Today we have one of our Making Music for Brands Academy graduates, no longer students. I can't even call you a student. You're a graduate. And we've actually done an interview before, but I decided to do it again because you have some great news to share, some tangible, concrete news. You basically got your first paying gig with a major brand far away from you, across the ocean, all the way in France, but it's no small gig. I mean, it's a real gig. It paid substantially well. Is that a thing even? Substantially well? It paid well.
I would call it substantially well.
Substantially well. I don't even know if there's a phrase like this, but basically, I just want to talk to you about your journey as a student. Because it is a journey. You know, I always call it a journey because it is a journey. It has its stages. It has its ups. It has its downs. It has its happy moments. That's what we're going to talk about today with you. I want to welcome Louis Knudsen to this little chat for your benefit, folks. And Louis, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, who you are?
Yeah. I am, kind of a person who grew up mostly in smaller towns in the Midwest, and always had a love for music. For a long time, didn't really know what to do with that. When I was a little kid, I loved NBA basketball. Thought I was going to be as tall as my uncle, which is 6'8", and ended up not being that tall. So got to pivot. And I just in my teens, I really started listening to the radio, listening to oldies, loving the Beatles, the Eagles, Stevie Wonder, just music that made me feel so strongly. And all the while taking piano lessons and not really seeing how those things connected, but just kind of taking piano lessons because my mom was having me do that, and got more serious about it in my later teens. Sold my basketball card collection, bought an old Roland mixer, old now, because I had the CDR in the side, and it was very, very old fashioned now. But in 2000, that was like the thing to have. So started writing my own songs and recording them, making CDs, giving them to my friends. Went to college, had such a small dorm room that I put all my music stuff on top of my bed, and I slept underneath my bed so that I could be, writing songs all the time and recording them. And just went on like that for a long time, and
at that point, were you already thinking this is what I want to do for a living? Or was this I just really love doing this, but it wasn't like you're going to bet your life on it?
I didn't have I have to say at that point, when I was in college, I didn't have the courage or the confidence to even explore what it might look like to be a full-time musician. I thought, I guess, I wasn't opposed. That was what I wanted to do for sure. And if something would have presented itself to me as saying like, hey, do you want to do this full time? I would have been like, yeah, but of course, that didn't happen. And so it's like, well, am I going to go out and get this? I was playing shows. I was writing songs all the time. I was playing shows, inviting friends, giving away CDs all the time. But it was just this hobby that I was spending a ton of time and energy and heart and soul on, and that really didn't have any sort of financial payoff, which is fine for a hobby, right? But so anyway, this is a whole nother story in itself, but I actually went to South Korea to teach English for 2 years. And in a weird kind of way, just by having to figure out my own life, having to learn a language and all this stuff, I actually came back after 2 years to the Midwest here in the US with, I think, a lot more courage just to try something crazy. And so what that looked like at that point was doing music as a live performer and entertainer. And I started with playing music in senior living, playing Elvis songs for people in their 80s and 90s and 100. And I started getting gigs at night. And what's that?
You have any stories there? How does it?
Yeah, there's so many, but
the thing that's
Right.
closest to your heart when you're pouring your heart out on stage, and across from you is three folks who you're not even sure if they're hearing you.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of it was. My favorite story is one time I walked in and there were these two sweet older ladies in a memory care unit. So it's Alzheimer's, dementia. That's kind of the context of that. And which is parenthetically, I just have to say, is a beautiful experience to be the person who can cause someone to start singing when they haven't said a coherent word in months. That was amazing. But
there's
so
a
that kind of stuff.
documentary about that. You know that.
Yeah.
What is it called? I don't remember, but we'll link it below because I'll remember.
Yeah, you're right.
Then. But it's about people who have forgotten everything, including their own children.
Yeah.
And they hear a melody and a lyric, and they start singing because it's a hit from their high school years.
Yep, it's a different part of the brain. It stays there.
Power of music, like,
yeah,
if we didn't have enough already good things to say about music as a medium that changes people's lives, this is a very specific instance. Okay, so you had these two sweet ladies.
And I walk in with my stuff and with my speaker and my guitar. I start setting it up, and the one lady looks over to her friend, and then she looks at me, and she looks at me, and she says to me, or no, she looks at her friend, and she's like, "He's not dead." And I look over, I'm like, "What's going on?" And she looks at me, she's like, and she points to her friend. She said, "You were dead." And I get it, right? It's like I've known enough older folks now to know that, like, they check the obituaries every day. Like, that's just part of your life when sometimes people die. And I guess in that lady's mind, I was one of the people that had passed away. But I said, no, I feel fine. In fact, I'm going to play some songs for you guys. And then the whole day was great.
That's a great thing to hear before you go on stage.
Right.
I thought you were dead.
So I was doing that, and just, I mean, I met my wife playing music at a coffee shop around here in this area that I live. I live in
How old were you
Rock
then?
Island, Illinois. In case
how old were you at that point?
When I got married?
Well, you were going through when you were almost dead, and
that's right around age 30. I'm like starting to play senior.
You're not a spring chicken anymore. Like,
not really. Yeah, I mean, and it's
starting to think about, okay, what do I do with my life? Like, seriously.
Exactly. And I've had this exact thought as I've been hauling heavy speakers. I mean, I'm very thankful to be healthy and able to do that. But I just think a thought that always goes through my mind is like, in 10 years, do I still want to have to carry speakers from my studio into my car, over to the gig, out from the car into the gig, play the gig for 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours after everything's said and done, back into the car, back into the studio? Do I want to have to do that? And it started giving me some sort of occupation, like life anxiety about like what's the future going to look like. At the same time, feeling extremely blessed to have a wife who supports me being a full-time musician with all the financial, instability that comes along with that. But at the same time, every year I was getting better gigs. I was making more money to the point where, it was like I was making a living playing live that, I was making enough money where like it really wouldn't have made sense for me to get a different job, even in the professional world, because it's like based on, I have a theology degree from a Bible college. So I don't have a business degree. I don't have anything where it's like, they're going to give you 6 figures right out of the gate. And so I was making a good, honest living playing live music. And then March 15th, 2020, the pandemic happens. Everyone calls me overnight and they're like, we're sorry, but we can't have you play. You're non-essential. That's been the whole phrase during the pandemic, is like essential workers, non-essential workers. Everything that's non-essential, shut it down. I found out I was non-essential.
Yeah. So tell me how that felt. Like, take me back to that day and getting those calls basically overnight. Like, what, you already had a bit of anxiety about carrying speakers. Now they're telling you, you can't even do that. You can't. We can't have you carrying the speakers into our building. What did that feel like?
Yeah. Uh, it was that sinking kind of punch in the gut feeling that anyone, everyone knows what that feels like to lose a job or to get to not get the promotion that you were applying for or whatever. It was tough, but first of all, I have friends and family around me who are extremely supportive in every way. And so I had all these fans who usually come to gigs, right? And so I started doing this thing on Facebook, the live streaming. I would do live streaming, and I would put my Venmo, put my PayPal, and the very first Friday that I did that, I actually did it for I did a 12-hour live stream, taking no breaks other than to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
And so people really showed up for that, and I realized it was like this immediate affirmation. It's like, we're here for you. Like, it's not just me and my wife in the ether. Like, we have friends, and basically the donations that came in just that one day were enough for like 2 months rent for our apartment. So that was huge. But I kept doing that. And of course, people kind of dwindled off. And I mean, not to say anything bad about them, but it's like they have other people that they're supporting. They have other things. Everybody was struggling at that time.
Including
right. And
yeah,
exactly. And in the back of my mind, I've always thought to myself, I know as a musician, sometimes I'm the beneficiary of charity and goodwill, but I want to get to the point in my career where I'm giving, where I can give someone who needs, not to the point where I'm always just asking and asking, because like, that's not how it's meant to be. You're supposed to receive, and you're also supposed to give. And so in the back of my mind, I never really looked at that whole live stream thing as something that was sustainable. It was just great to have in the moment. But in the long term, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I've got to find something else, because like the way this whole pandemic thing is going, it might happen again. I'm very thankful that a lot of my gigs did come back during this past summer, because a lot of them were outdoor and everyone was spaced out and according to the protocol of the state. But I was looking for something that I could rely on, even if I had to be in my studio by myself all the time. And I stumbled upon your masterclass right at the beginning of April.
Okay, so April is that time when things are being locked down.
Yeah.
The reality is different suddenly, and you basically already had mixed feelings about carrying speakers into live venues. But the thing is, when you get on a roll and you get comfortable making money a certain way,
yeah,
like you just do it, right?
Right.
But in the back of your mind, it was like, well, one, I don't want to be carrying speakers on my back 20 years from now. But then like the pandemic really created more urgency around the reality of like relying on live performance as your sole income, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess
the other thing I'll say too, just about carrying speakers, was that at most gigs, I've never had anyone tell me, Louis, don't play any of your own music. But the reality is, just kind of like in the senior living context, you're there to facilitate a good time. And what that means is playing cover songs. It means playing the James Taylor and the Beatles and the, Oasis, Wonderwall and all that stuff that just help people have a good time at a bar.
Yeah.
And increasingly, I would throw my own songs in there sometimes, but a lot of times it just kind of falls flat. And I don't want to say that 100%, because I have a lot of good friends and fans who are like, play that one song that you wrote. And so, but most of the time it ended up just being a cover gig. And so that piece of me that wanted to write, that wanted to find validation for my writing, was kind of like, I don't know, I felt like it was kind of starting to die.
Yeah.
Because I was also pursuing a lot of music. I had my music in some non-exclusive licensing libraries, and it's just crickets,
Yeah. So then tell me, like, what was it about? Do you remember what was it about the ad that you probably saw somewhere that resonated with you? Do you remember?
It was, I do remember. It was the fact that you were willing to put concrete numbers out for demos and for final composition fees.
Okay. So I was basically
I've seen a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that it seems like half of these masterclasses are named 6-figure something or other, and it seems like that's like, hey, you're going to win the lottery if you become a composer. And I know that's not true instinctively as an adult who's critically thinking, like, you're not going to make 6 figures on your first year or your first gig or whatever. And there's a Bright Eyes song called "This Is the First Day of My Life," and he says at the end of it, he says, I'd rather be working for a paycheck than waiting to win the lottery. And I really like that sentiment where it's like, yeah, I want to do well, but I want to work hard for it. I don't want to leave my success to chance. And so when you, in your 45-minute promo video or whatever it was, first of all, you just seemed really down to earth. It didn't seem sleazy. It didn't seem like too, I don't know what it is. I feel like I can sniff it out when something just seems a little inauthentic, a little, and there's a lot of stuff out there, right, online where people are kind of just trying to make a quick buck and they don't really have a lot of good content. But you talked about 39 hours, and it's more, I know it's more now, but 39 hours of like actual, content. And you walk through the whole process and you said, make 250 to 300 euros or dollars on a demo fee and 1,500 and up on composer fees. And I was like, something about this seems legitimate. Something about this seemed like, I know it's going to be a huge shift for me. It's going to be a huge change. I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of time to it. But honestly, it's a pandemic. I don't have any gigs. I've got nothing but time. And then the thing that really made it all come together for me, which is crazy. And I don't know if I even told you this ever, but so there's a fee to sign up for the class. And I just lost my job. My wife has lost her job. We don't have any income. And I was like, I want to sign up for this so bad. It seems legit to me, but I can't justify spending that money when I've got rent to worry about. I've got groceries to worry about. And like, we're not in an emergency situation, but it's just like, I don't feel like dipping into my savings account, or checking account for that. So the next day,
and it's not $99. Like, it's not.
No, exactly. It's not
the most expensive thing in the world, but it's a little. It's not cheap. Okay, it's
really not. And we all work hard for our money, right? And so it's it's a commitment to spend the money. And so the next day, I get. My wife and I get a letter from a family at our church. They had gotten their stimulus relief money from the government, which everyone had gotten.
Yeah.
But they came with this letter saying, hey, we haven't lost our jobs and we got our stimulus check, but we wanted to share it with people who were affected during this time. And the amount of money was the same amount of money as your masterclass. And I was like, okay. I talked to Alexia. I told her what happened. I was like, I think God wants me to do this. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm not looking for signs in the sky all the time. But it was one of those moments in life where it was like, oh, wow.
Have you ever heard the saying?
Yeah, I can't make stuff like that up.
Have you ever heard the saying, there are no coincidences, only signs?
Yeah.
Some people might not believe, but I do believe, and I live my life according to that. As long as not everybody believes in God. So there's that. But some of us who believe, I try to find reflection of God in reality. So like, if I'm in accordance with reality and I'm not fooling myself, but let's say that I am doing something that I consider worthwhile. I am putting in an honest day's work. I'm working hard. Then I'm looking for signs in reality. Like, so if you're not a believer, you would just say, well, reality with a big R is telling me this is a dead end.
Yeah. And people always talk about the universe is saying this. Yeah.
Universe, whatever you want to put it. Right. So, okay. Wow. That's a crazy story, man. And it's amazing. It really is amazing. And at that point I was like, all right. Okay. So what's amazing to me still is that the decision at a time when you're making no income, now some folks at your church basically they were really generous, but it's still like you take that money and you give it to some guy who you saw on a Facebook ad. I guess, I mean, that free training that I give out just to filter people out. It's like I introduce you to the world, you find out what it's about, and then you realize, okay, like I know enough now. Either I want to take it further or this is not for me. So, but it's still, I mean, if I put myself in your shoes, it still would have been a hard decision for me, you know? But if I did make that decision, I would work my ass off so that I would not waste, I would not waste the sign. Yep. You know, it's like, I'm not going to offend the universe or God by like just spending the money and then just kind of wishing and hoping, but not really putting in the effort.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely my mindset. And the other piece of that too, that I haven't talked about quite so much, but I had been working on my own production skills for about really seriously for about, I would say 4 years, like mining every YouTube channel for any tips on using Cubase, using EQ, using compression, how to mix the bus on the drums, like everything. I had 2 different years in that time. I had written and recorded a song every single week, which was just a grueling thing. And I was getting feedback from friends who had better, mixing insights than me. So like, this is just culminating to where I see your class and I already I'm feeling more confident than I ever have in my production skills and really my songwriting skills than I ever have before. But I live in Rock Island, Illinois, population of 50,000 people.
What do I do with these skills?
Chicago's shut down. There's no way I'm ever going to live in Nashville, LA, New York. I'm here. How do I get connected to someone who matters? And that was the other piece, was like, when I started your class, I was like, Tommy has to know who I am. Like that, I have to do such good work and I have to do it so fast that he at least is going to like, be like, hey dude, like, how are you doing this stuff so fast? Like I was bound and determined to get noticed by you.
Yeah. And you did. I mean, you definitely, and this is a mark of all the top students in the masterclass, is that they do things at an incredible speed. Not that you have to rush it, but like in a lot of cases, that just shows me that they're serious, like, because they're just hell bent on doing everything and doing it fast and reaching out to me. So like getting the mentorship, like getting your money's worth. Like it's amazing how many people don't actually do that. Which maybe is fine by me, because then I can spend more time on, the diligent students.
Right.
But that's just reality. Okay. So you joined the masterclass, and then did you get the feeling that your suspicions were correct, that this is indeed a valuable resource, rather than like, oh yeah, it was good and all, but like, I don't really see how it changes my situation in any way. Like I just have some new knowledge now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say my feelings about it being a very legitimate class were confirmed by the fact that you you don't start it out by saying, hey, let's go into the box and start writing a commercial. You lay this groundwork of preparing your whole life for this lifestyle, because that's what it is. And one very concrete change that I've made in my life since starting the masterclass is journaling every single day. And that journaling can go off into whatever, but I had stopped in college and I never started again. And I would kind of go out on, and in the masterclass, I realized how important it was to every day remind yourself of where you've come from, where you are, and where you're trying to get. And even if that's one page, and a lot of times it is because I'm busy and I have stuff to do.
Even one sentence.
Yeah, but it's been so good, man, and I've just been doing it every day, and so that groundwork made me realize, like, this is not just 5 easy steps. This is not just like practice on 3 demos. This is like a whole and it honestly, it's kind of surprising that you can even cram this much in 39 hours. But I really believe, I mean, it's made a very indelible change in my life. Is this using little things like, like journaling and exercise, and, and taking breaks, mindfully taking breaks, not burning yourself out, all this awesome stuff, that builds a life that sustainably, not just for a couple of burn hot, burn bright months, but like for your whole future, foreseeably, you can start building this mindset that will help you be, can build you into being a person that people will go to for custom music composition.
Yeah. But it is a career. Like, it's not like how to promote your album on Instagram.
Right.
It's more like, this is a real industry. There are real musicians making a full-time living from their home studios. But here is everything I know about my 15 years in the business of doing this. Like, it's not easy, but, the good ones make it. It might not be easy. It might not be fast, but I always say success is inevitable. If you have the talent, the tenacity, you have some good tactics, right? So the tactics, some of the foundations, the craft, the business, all of that we teach. But like, really, you're not going to be successful by taking the masterclass. You're going to be successful because you applied the lessons that were there. So in the masterclass, we do you get to see from the inside how we score commercials, and not just scoring, but like how we actually talk between the clients about what this thing should be musically, blah, blah, blah. What were you going to say?
I loved that. That was the most enjoyable part of the class for me. I felt like I got to be a fly on the wall inside of a production house, watching a pro talk to a pro who's working for a huge brand. I shouldn't say I felt like that is literally what it is. And that to me, because like I said, I was watching YouTube videos for all this engineering stuff, but that's something that I was not able to find anywhere else. No one would put the intentionality into doing something like that unless they had this cohesive, class like you have, that's very intentionally geared exactly to someone like me who wants to know exactly what the first email looks like, exactly what a brief is, exactly what a different kinds of arcs there could, like I didn't know what an arc was. And all those little nuances that just you can't just, so I didn't even know what they were called. How can I Google it if I have never heard of it? So that was, I have to say, when I savored those videos, I would watch them over and over again, those classes, because I was just like absorbing it, and once wasn't enough.
It's interesting because, like, in a lot of fields, you have the people who are experts in their field teaching a masterclass about it. Yeah. But even though our field is a real industry, so making music for brands is a real industry, nobody is teaching it. I've seen some like articles online, but they were like really not high quality. Yeah. So I'm kind of happy that we're the only real resource. I mean, we are real people in the business. We are doing this every day. We are scoring these commercials. We're making this happen. But there's not really a comprehensive resource online. And so I really wanted to, do something that I can say with full integrity and with my conscience being okay. Everything I got, man, it's there. Like, I don't know what else I would put in there. And I'm saying it's still today, there's things we can add. They're not essential things though. They'll just be like enhancements or more examples and things like this, but everything is really there. So, okay. So you got on my radar because you sent me some really good music to the homework assignments. You then built a website, which we do step by step in the masterclass. Like, I basically show people how to build a website to get attention of people who are responsible for music for brand campaigns in our business. So you did that. And I felt like, it was very good. It was very impactful. It was exactly what we teach. And then you went out in the world. So like, let's talk about that now. You built your website, you're real, you learned about the business, and now you entered the world of music and brands trying to get gigs. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about those early days. I mean, this is recent.
Yeah, I would say late May, early June is
Yeah.
when that whole process started after because I really wanted to finish the
Incredible.
masterclass.
Because
What's that?
April you took the masterclass.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
May, June, you're already knocking on doors in our industry. That's unprecedented, folks. And Lewis is like a really, really big exception. And I don't want you to think that you should do it like Lewis. Some guys or girls will take 3 months, 6 months. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's whenever you are ready. And I felt like you were ready. Your music.
Yeah,
Like you
I
said,
remember sending stuff to you and saying like, "Is my reel ready?" And you're like, "No, let's cut it down." I was like, "Is my site ready?" And you're looking over it, and so I was like, I'm not going to go through the whole class based on his advice. And then when the part that I'm really kind of like a dog who sees a squirrel, I just want to go for it. I'm not going to like not ask your advice if you're willing to give it at the end. So I appreciated you being there, all through the whole process and past the end for just mentorship.
Yeah, no worries. Well, tell me about those early moments, because I was there with you when you had some lights at the end of the tunnel, like some hope on the horizon, and then it was like it would be fading out. And then talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I started sending.
You don't have to mention names, specific names.
No, yeah, for sure. But you have the link to the Inspiration Room site after the cold email lessons, which basically just is like a resource to have a starting point to know what kind of companies might be interested in the kind of thing I'm doing. And some of the links, I went through manually because some of the links are outdated. On the site, I think they do regular updates, but this is a crazy industry, and sometimes people go out of business as fast as they, I'm starting to realize it's very competitive. And so so it was important to me to be just like you taught in the module, to not treat it like some spammy thing, but email people as if they are actual individual people who have a need for music. And so I went to every website. It took a long time. And I really vetted every website to see, is this the kind of, first of all, are they doing the kind of work for the kind of brands that I love and respect? And there's tons of them. But second of all, to see, just find an email, research that person on LinkedIn, see if I can have a respectable way of contacting them, not just Instagram DM. And so I put this whole list together in a Word document manually, which I'm sure people who are geekier with computers than I am would have a smarter way to do that. But it was good because it gave me that time to just sort of absorb this world. I mean, and if you think about that, while I'm going to all these websites, I'm being exposed constantly to really the best music out there for ads, because I'm listening to maybe 3 or 4 different commercials per production company, and like, wow, that was amazing. Or after the masterclass, it changes the way you listen. I mean, you're like, wow, that was hard to go from classical to reggae to trap like that. That took some doing. I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas normally I wouldn't have thought about that. So I learned a lot just doing that, and I put this whole list together. And after the list was done, I started just consistently emailing people, cold emails, but trying to using all the stuff I learned in the class. And there's a lot that goes into that, but just saying, hey, I'm a real human. You're a real human. I do music. Let's I would love to work for you. Love to help you find if you need me.
Yeah.
And some people got back to me, and some people were like, hey, we don't need anything now, but thanks for getting in touch. And of course, anyone who's ever done cold emails just loves getting a reply. It's just such a morale booster when you're not ignored.
Sure.
And it really makes you appreciate the people that take the 1 minute to write you back.
Sure.
Almost everyone who clicked on my site and listened to the reel said that they really liked it, which was very encouraging and affirmed what you had told me, that you're like, yeah, I think this is ready to go. It sounds good. And then I remember, so here in the US, we have Father's Day and the second Sunday of June. And that weekend, 2 big jobs came in for me at the same time. And I had 2 gigs. I had Father's Day that I, was spending with my family.
Yep.
And then my wife and I were celebrating our anniversary, and it was super stressful, and both of these jobs come in. But I was like, I just had the same mindset. I was like, I'm just going to not exhaust myself. I'm going to do my best, do my utmost, regardless of, I'm going to do as good as I can on this stuff. And there were two major brands.
When you get an open door, you have to take it.
So
there's no like, oh, it's Father's Day, I can't.
Right. No, I was like, I'm doing this. And so I had 2 production companies reach out. One of them had me do 3, and both of them were on a pro bono basis. I was doing this for free. I offered that. I said, hey, would love to get a chance for you to feel out our chemistry working together. So happy to do the first one for free. I did 3 demos for one, and they were both very big brands, one in the States and one overseas.
You can tell me the brand. You can tell me the brand. We don't have to.
Okay, yeah. One was for Lincoln and one was for Coca-Cola. And so I'm like,
big, yeah.
This is cool. Just to be at the table, I tried not to let my expectations get too high because I'm new. But it was an awesome experience for me, man. I got to see like real briefs in real time, talking on the phone with people from, here and there.
And how do you feel the experience of the reality versus what the masterclass was teaching you? Did you feel prepared? Did you feel like you were?
I honestly, I felt prepared. I really did. Anytime I didn't understand something that they said, because I was dealing with people, like some people call them stems. Some people call them, what's the other word that you split? Yeah. And so there's stuff like that. And I would just say, oh, what do you mean by that? Because there's no point in trying to know something that you don't know, because you're just going to look like an idiot.
Stems or splits, by the way, for those of you who are wondering, stems or splits are individual tracks that you export individually for the music production company, so they can have, if they need to do a change, if they need to do a mix on their end, they'll ask you for splits, they'll ask you for stems.
Where that gets confusing is that when you're a songwriter and you're sharing rights with other people, the splits are also the ownership. So were we doing 50-50 splits? And so I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So
they asked you for all the splits and you're like,
right.
Man, you want all the splits. Right.
Wow. I felt extremely prepared. I didn't feel nervous. I really had this feeling of like culmination. Like my whole life has brought me to this moment where I have a chance, and I'm going to do my best, and I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to not send something because I don't think it's not good enough, because I know it's good enough. Like it's at least on a general sense of like production quality, like it's good, and early on with those 2 experiences I had, I learned, I guess, a lesson about how sometimes you have chemistry with people and sometimes you don't. And it was one way with one project and the other way with the other. But I realized in my gut that there's that temptation to like take things personally and sort of let it pollute your good, positive attitude. But again, the journaling helps so much with that, with just maintaining a good attitude and saying, hey, if these people aren't a huge fan of what I do, and if we're not able to communicate well about a brief, then that's fine, and they have their people that they can communicate well with. And if these other people are I feel more chemistry with, then pursue that and leave behind the stuff that doesn't work. So
chemistry is really important. And like, because in the creative business, we're not selling vacuum cleaners, we're not selling real estate. It's really the quality of your interaction with the other people in the kitchen that will determine the output. So basically you had some decent experiences, but you also had experiences where it was like, I didn't really feel the vibe, didn't feel the closeness. I just felt like I'm sending stuff over, and I'm not really sure at the end what's going to happen. And you're going to feel like that. That's going to happen to you. But those early moments where you demoed, you didn't land anything, you felt like, I'm not sure if the chemistry was so great there. You didn't let that affect you personally, which is something we teach in the masterclass. But you kept going, right? You kept moving forward. And what did that look like for you? Did you just like tell yourself, I'm going to send X amount of emails a day to new music production companies and try to get them on a call, try to shake their hand virtually?
Yeah. For me, what that's looked like, the day that works for me is Thursday. And so I pretty much use my whole Thursday afternoon to send like a lot of emails, kind of going on with aligning with some advice of yours from the class. But yeah, I would just, and I had I signed up for Submit Hub or for HubSpot, and I had my template emails to kind of streamline the process, but I would still personalize things based on what I saw on the website or what I saw on their LinkedIn. And so, yeah, I would just continually every Thursday, I would send out a lot of emails, and I would, hear back from some people, same kind of thing. And it's really interesting, it's interesting how, when I used to be a full-time musician and was touring around the U.S., I would, and I was younger, but I would send cold emails to venues, and if they wouldn't get back to me, I felt really sort of offended and kind of salty about it. Like, what, am I not good enough? And I've just developed this tether from life experience and also from some advice in the masterclass where it's like, these people are so incredibly busy. It's really sort of arrogant for me to assume that they would make time for my reel. I should be pleasantly surprised if they make time for my reel rather than have this expectation. And so what that change in mindset has done for me has given me the ability to freely, with no ego, send a third email, sometimes even a fourth email, and to actually hear back for the first time on that email. And they're not like, hey, Louis, stop bothering me or I'm going to put you in my spam. They're like, hey, I want to talk to you. Like, sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. Like, these are really, really decent people that are just really busy, and you need to give them a chance, and so persistent, just like everything else in this whole world, it's all about persistence.
But it's a lot for an artist musician to kind of get used to, because
it is, especially for artists. We're so sensitive.
Yeah, and this is why I say the word craftsperson all the time. Because artist is one thing, you can do what you like, but being a craftsperson means that you're solving a problem for someone else. It's a different attitude altogether. It means you're going to email someone 4 times, because that's what great craftspeople do. They try to establish relationships with people that they want to work for, and they won't let lack of reply stop them. You just got to do it politely but persistently. But okay, let's get to the good stuff. So Thursdays, you keep emailing, you don't give up because people don't reply. Very small percentage of people will reply, even if your music is great. I experienced the same stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, you get a job.
Well, and then I got one more in late July. I got one from a pharmaceutical thing, and it was the same kind of thing where I offered the demo for free, and they seemed really happy with it. They sent it to the creative team, and I never heard back. So assuming that I didn't get chosen, but yeah, finally, let's see, late August, I heard from a production company in France, and they said, hey, there's a transit company that is looking for they want a 45-second commercial. They wanted this. They sent me a reference track, a YouTube video from a band. And they said, this is the song that they wanted, but among negotiations, it kind of got too expensive. And so we're going the custom music route. And I listened to the song. I'm like, I could do that. Like, that's the, male vocal and with what I've learned with production, I know I can like get close to that. So it took a couple of weeks, and I'm in my mind every day. I'm like, are they ever going to, and finally, but they told me it was going to be a while. And this, I will say this early on, I just had this sense that like I had a really good communication chemistry with this person. It was very respectful on both ends. We really were understanding about everything. But yeah, so finally in the middle of September, I got another email saying, "Hey, we're going on this. So send us something." And I sent them something, and probably had 5 or 6 revisions. Obviously the first couple were pretty significant, and the last few were more nuanced. But I kept waiting on that, and after a couple of weeks, I heard back that I won the job, and I can't say what that feeling is like. Really, it's just
that's exactly what I need you to tell me now. The feeling, that feeling of your first paying gig.
Honestly, I didn't even jump up and down or like, I mean, my wife went out and we celebrated. We got a bottle of wine. It was like amazing to acknowledge that moment. But for me, I just felt this huge relief because it was this validation of like this full circle thing where, like, starting in April and all the way up until the end of September or October, it's like, I knew this was possible. I knew I could do this, but I didn't have any proof that I could until right now. And it was more like I expected this of myself,
Yeah.
Like this isn't me like soaring above what I deserve. It's like, or what I've worked for. It's like, no, I'm finally at my own standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was this wonderful feeling of hard work and patience and persistence arriving and culminating in a moment.
Yeah. And
beautiful.
You see that, hopefully from this experience, you have learned what the world is about, this world of music and brands, that it's not, it's not like you do one thing and then you're set. It's a continual marathon. Right. You continually have to build relationships. But the beautiful thing is once you go through a project like you have gone through for the transportation company across the ocean, France, this is a very lucrative gig. I remember you asked me, this is what they're offering me. And I said, what? Like, I don't offer my composers that much money. But of course, the budgets differ. Okay, so it all depends on it's never about like someone deciding that they're going to pay to a composer very little or very much. It usually has to do with the fact that there's an overall budget that the brand has allocated. And then the music production company will basically, divide that budget up among the musicians. So, but,
and I just got an email this morning from the production company saying that Spain is thinking about running the ad. And if they do, then I'm going to get the same amount. I'm going to get that extra amount for the licensing, which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I did not think, like I said before, I mean, that Bright Eyes song, I'd rather be working for a paycheck than waiting to win the lottery. But this project feels like working for a paycheck is the lottery, because like we're talking amounts of money right now that like I was trying to make being in a licensing catalog and just like waiting.
Yeah.
But here I got to step over all that stuff of wondering who's representing my music, who are they sending it to? And they're sending me a brief saying like, this is how you win. And like, it's a communication process where it's like, they're giving me revisions to make my song as strong as they can. It's just hands down way more enjoyable for me than waiting for some kind of like lucky thing to happen in a movie trailer in 10 years.
Yeah, but you basically get the feeling for the business, which is like you try to establish relationships. It's all about timing. We even have a module in the masterclass that talks about the strange laws of this business, because not everything is reasonable, not everything is rational. But a few things remain true in our business, which is the more relationships you have, the more chemistry you have in these relationships, the more routines you have to build these so you don't do it on a whim, the more opportunities you're going to get. And when you have this opportunity, now you can email your contact at this music production company any moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have shown to them that you're capable of creating a very challenging song. And by the way, I'd love to do a case study about this in another video for our masterclass students where we break down.
You just have to teach me. You just have to teach me screen sharing. I have no idea how to do that.
Like this. We're going to do it like,
okay.
We're going to do an interview. You're going to share your screen. You're going to show me the session. You're going to show me the song. You're going to say, here's what the revisions were. Here's what I had to change. We just going to show it to people because they're hungry for this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I am so happy for you. Not because, it's like luck. Yeah, it has a little bit to do with it. But if you're always working, then you're always putting yourself in the position of luck, It's that quote, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So you definitely prepared. There was an opportunity once through the masterclass, but two, after the masterclass, you were out there looking for your own opportunities. So tell me, what are the last things that you want to say to people who are watching this? There's only two of us talking here, but there's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of people watching this. After your journey, your entire life journey with music, and then what happened in April with the shutdown and you going through this academy to landing this gig, what do you want to say to people in the form of inspiration, encouragement, or maybe some wisdom?
I guess, now that I'm able to talk to you about a job that I won, I can look back at the last 6 months and say, wow, that blew by. But I do remember days in the summer where like one day felt like forever because I didn't have any work to even do. And I was like, so ready. And I mean, I was just making tracks just to practice making tracks. I was sending stuff, just ideas to people. But when you're, I guess just be patient and realize the power of patience. I think more than anyone, just like you mentioned earlier, people of an artistic bent have in general a harder time than anyone else with patience and persistence and not giving up, because we do just tend to take it personally when stuff doesn't take off in a month or 2 months, and waiting 6 months after all that work. I mean, I just worked so hard and did so much work for free. And it got to the point in August where I'm like, I felt like, why am I doing this? And even despite all the encouragement of everyone around me, I was like, I got to make some money doing this, or why am I doing it? And like 5 months of working hard for no real financial payoff felt like a long time. But now that 6 months later, I get this opportunity, it goes final. And I would just encourage people who are really serious about this to build patience and persistence into your day, build it into your journal, put it on the background of your phone, just do whatever it takes to light a fire under yourself to keep going, because if you're doing good work, there is a payoff for you. But you got to find your people. You got to find your niche and who's gonna. You got to find someone who's going to give you a chance. And there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of noise and static in this industry. But when you find those people that you click with, and when you approach them with a serving attitude rather than an entitled attitude, they're going to love you and they're going to go back. This company is already coming to me for other stuff because they like my attitude. So I think for artists, patience is the key.
The patience is the key. And the key, again, relationships.
Yeah.
One relationship. Like, it's like, yeah, I have to go out there and build relationships. Yes, you do. That's the hardest part in the beginning. But once you have relationships that are based on trust, likability, and previous working experience together, those relationships keep paying you dividends. Yeah. You don't have to try with them anymore. You will get emails in your inbox unexpectedly with new projects. And that's the whole point. That's the lasting power of doing all that hard work. I was drawing something like this diagram, which I saw once. I wonder if
there it is. Okay. Yeah.
It's
what a shame it would be to stop digging.
Yeah, it's basically a guy who gives up, or a girl.
Yeah, I like that.
But on the other side was gold. And that's probably what I would say your story was. Like, it's almost as if you were being tested.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
Do you really want to make it? Because if you
Right.
do, you're not going to give up.
Yeah.
You're going to keep going back every Thursday and doing the email. And then in September, it was like, okay, you didn't give up. Here is your first sign from the universe that yes, you belong in the business. Here you go. So listen, man, I'm really happy for you. We're also working together now. We're trying to get some opportunities in the US together because I think you're a really capable guy who's really good at reaching out. So I'm also putting you, you know, as a part of my family because I like to be surrounded by really good, bright, and hardworking people. So the future is bright. I look at it with hope. I think there will be more blessings, but before they come, we will endure probably some difficulties, probably some pain, but that's okay because we're in this, we're committed. And man, I'm just really happy for you because you're a proof that with the right kind of mentorship, the right kind of information, if somebody takes the initiative and commits to working really hard, it might not be easy for months. You might almost give up. But I truly believe that the laws work in such way that the people who have talent and they're tenacious and they're above average as far as their perseverance, they're the ones who are going to make it. Everybody else will have excuses. They'll have all sorts of reasons why it didn't work. But we don't look at excuses. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to everything that took to make the masterclass. Even as I was watching it, I was like, this is no small task to create something like this, but it's so intentional, so beneficial. So thank you.
Thank you, man. For anybody watching this, we'll schedule another call with Louis to actually go through the nuts and bolts of the campaign. Maybe look at the songwriting process. You'll actually see what the project was. We'll talk about the revisions. I think that'll be insanely helpful to everybody. But I want to thank you for your time. Congratulate you once again. Give a big hug to your wife for me. Celebrate it. Learn to celebrate these moments because
that's big.
That's really big. And don't abandon your Thursday routine of contacting more strangers because you just won a lottery. That's the difference between an amateur and a craftsperson. An amateur goes out and spends their money on a bunch of fancy gear and goes, oh, it should be fine now. Whereas a professional celebrates, goes out to dinner with his wife, comes back home, goes, tomorrow morning is a brand new day. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we're saving up for a house, so that money's going in the bank account, and it's money I don't have to pay interest on.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Okay, Louis, I wish you a great day, great rest of the week, and for everybody watching this, hope you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing, consider leaving a comment or question for Louis below, and we'll see you in the next video. All right? Ciao.
Thanks, Tommy.